The great philosopher Aristotle talked about this thing called the good life. Now, actually, this is something that Jesus even referred to in some of his teachings when Jesus talked about coming to the earth to bring people a rich and satisfying life. But Aristotle, who even came before Jesus, he also talked about this thing, except that he came up just a little bit short. Now, Aristotle taught that there were two types of good. He called the first type relative good and the second type non-relative good. So the things that are good in relative terms are things that are good for the sake of other things. Like, for example, money is a relative good. Money isn't good in and of itself. I mean, there's nothing you can do with money really just by itself. But money is good because of what money buys you. So Aristotle might say money is good, relatively speaking. But the non-relative good are things that are good for their own sake. They're sort of intrinsically good. Like maybe you would say that a sunset is a non-relative good because it's not good for any other sake than just its own sake. Like it's beautiful, it's awesome, it's good. In Genesis 1, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and God saw that the light was good. There it is, that word right there. The light was good. So this concept wasn't invented by Aristotle, but he did recognize that there are things that are just good in and of themselves. And God said the same thing in the first chapter of the Bible. And later in that chapter, it says that God created human beings in his own image, and then he looked over all that he had made, and he saw that it was very good. Now, here's what I get out of that. In God's eyes, there is such a thing as non-relative good, but there is a ranking of those things. And so God said all these other things in creation were good things, but human beings, God said, and this is important if you really want to try to discover and embrace a biblical worldview, human beings are very good. Back to Aristotle. He taught that every human being wanted one thing, and he called it happiness. Happiness, according to Aristotle, was the ultimate non-relative good. Now, it's not the kind of happiness that we think about in our culture today. What Aristotle meant by that, another translation for the word happiness in his language, was flourishing. He wanted people to flourish. That's what he said. He said human beings were made to really, truly be happy or to really, truly flourish. And this, by the way, happens, according to Aristotle, when a human soul conforms to what he called moral and intellectual virtues. In other words, Aristotle recognized that there were things out there that were right and wrong, and really the only way to flourish as a human being was to conform both morally and intellectually. Now, this is again where the teachings of Aristotle intersect with the teachings of the Bible, and specifically with what Jesus himself said, except that Jesus got a little bit more specific about it. Jesus said to the people, "You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." So, see, Jesus said that if you truly wanted to be free, it wasn't just being free on your own terms, sort of free to pursue your own personal happiness. Your freedom, according to Jesus, is tied to the truth, the relative and moral truth, and that truth is found in the person and work of Jesus Christ. Jesus said the thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy, but my purpose is to give people a rich and satisfying life. So listen, here's the point, especially for those of you out there who are maybe beginning to investigate biblical Christianity, and you're into philosophy, you're into a good life, you really want to flourish, you really want to have true, deep, long-lasting happiness. That happiness can only come through knowing who Jesus is and through being in relationship with God through Jesus Christ that sets you free from the inside out. Now, if you want to learn more about that, I'll put some links below so that you can explore the truth of a biblical worldview, but I especially encourage you to talk about this topic and many other topics with a small group or with a mentor.